Today, we're having the opportunity to meet a person who is changing people's life and someone who has inspired me to become the person who I am today. We're talking about the man and only Barry Goldstein. Welcome, Barry.
Thank you, Don. Happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure and it's an honor to have the opportunity to interview you. And I would like to ask you in your own words, what do you do, Barry? How would you describe it?
Well, if I had to simplify it as simple as possible, I would say that I use music to assist people in magnifying their mission. So, music can be used in lots of different ways to navigate energy. But I think that we are all here for a purpose. We're all here for to share a gift of some kind. And music, in my experience, is one of the fastest ways to really get to our heart space. And most of our missions and our visions and our creations are waiting to be birthed in our life. Music is an amazing catalyst that helps us clear through layers of whatever challenges we're experiencing and helps us cut through to the blessings that we're waiting to become. And so, what I do with music is I start with a process of first inspiring myself and touching my own heart with whatever I do, and then just allowing it to ripple out and find its resonance. And that's what resonance is. It's when we find a match, something that resonates with us, or something that amplifies something that we are already experiencing. So I'm just tapping in and sharing a very ancient concept. And, music is probably the oldest and most powerful biohack that we have. And that is, that's how I utilize music. For a while, Don, I didn't know what to call myself because I'm
Okay.
a producer, I'm a composer, and I didn't quite fit into the category of sound healing because what I do is a lot of what I do is based on recording as well. I love the recording process. Started off as a producer and engineer in New York, doing music very different from this. And so I came up with the term musitarian, which
Musician. Okay.
yes. So I describe that as someone who dedicates their life to shifting other people's life through the power of music.
Musitarian is someone who shifts other people's life through the power of music. Wow.
There you go.
Wow. Okay. So, in order to do that nowadays, you must have had in one moment an inspiration for music. How did it started, Barry?
I'll break it up into chapters because I think we all have different chapters in our life. I mean, I was inspired by music at a very young age. There was always a piano in my house, and I was my mom played music by ear. My dad sang, although my mother didn't think he sang well. He sang, so there was always music in the house. My sister was a very talented pianist as well, so music was always around me. But I was more fascinated with what music did in a room. I remember my mom like playing the piano and the notes, and I was more fascinated by how long the notes stayed in the air, the sustain or the echo of what music did. So I think at a very early age, I was fascinated by the space that happens between the notes. And so it's interesting because, as you know, like my music that I do now is really geared towards that. So that was inspired at a fascination at a very young age. But you know, I, in the realms of becoming a professional producer and a composer, what my intention was to be able to sustain myself with music as a career. I began, as that happened and I became a professional producer, I started to lose my love of music as it became a job per se. And I'm sure like a lot of people listening have had that experience, and you might have had this experience as well, Don, when you have an intention, it comes into fruition and it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. And so at fairly early part of my career, I decided that I wanted to reconnect with my heart. And that's when I started really experimenting with music. And that's when it changed for me, is when I decided that I wanted to move out of my traditional compositional process, which was all geared towards creating pop music, which is a 4-minute song, getting that perfect so that people are singing along with a phrase. That's what pop music is geared towards. We call that a chorus, right? That is catchy and hooky. What would happen if I reverse the process and just let music move through me instead of composing music, decomposing to it, and just allowing it really to take on another life of its own? And it was an experiment for me. I didn't think anyone would listen to hour-long pieces of music with no melody, not a lot of reoccurring themes, long tones. And what I found was that friends and family started using it for things like going to the dentist's office, or a loved one who had dementia, helping them get to sleep at night. And this thing that started as an experiment began to ripple out to help people. And I'm a person who follows energy. So when I see something has an opening and there's a lot of energy coming in, I just follow that and say, okay, well, this is obviously a fork in the road of my career. Which way do I want to go? Do I want to go to the left, which is staying in pop music, and, or do I want to go another way into the healing aspects of music? Or even a third choice, which came later, what would happen if I blend the two together? And what if everything became healing? What if everything became spiritual? And so that as I chose the path to the right, I realized they could both be incorporated, and that's really where the magic started to occur. Is when we know we can't serve two masters. So when we say that everything is spiritual, everything is sacred, everything could be a blessing, and that's when this whole other path started opening up, and I began to collaborate with a lot of people in this field who are thought leaders, and that came into my field to co-create with me based on all of this. It's not just the music; it's based a lot on intention as well. And I'd love to talk more with you about that as we move on, the role of intention.
Some of the musicians, some of the producers, some of the authors, and lots of creative people have the problem of not knowing how to live from their passion, to live out of their creations. What do you think missed in the majority of the artists that you could find out and that you could start having in your life that give you as a result to collaborate with very big names?
I mean, I think the starting point of it and it would never started out with, okay, I want to work with very big names. The biggest shift for me came when I received a song in my sleep. So I received a song called "Through the Eyes of God," that literally all the lyrics, the melody, everything came through in a dream for me. And I realized that in the beauty of that song and it being received, that I wasn't creating alone. Like I always had an idea and concept of that. And I understood from hearing it many times, that we're all one, that, the law of oneness. But when I received it in the dream, Don, I was shown the law of oneness in a very powerful and profound way. I was shown how everything's connected from the viewpoint of a single blade of grass. So, how that blade of grass sees the blue sky, the rain, how it is connected to the breeze. And so that really shifted things for me to receive that in a dream. It wasn't about who I was going to collaborate with, it was what was collaborating with me. And so, coming from that space of the biggest name that I can ever collaborate with is the divine, is God.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And after that experience, I had an awakening that this doesn't have to be random, a random experience, that every one of us can invite this divine power in with us, whether you call it God, the universe, something beyond ourselves, the field. It doesn't really matter what we call it. But what would happen if every time that you're creating, you invite it in, like just like you invite another musician, hey, would you like to come over and collaborate and write a song with me? What would happen if you invited in the divine to do that with you in all of your creations? And that was the starting point for me, that process. And eventually it became second nature. Like I don't really have to verbally invite the divine in to create with me anymore, because as soon as I place my hands on the keyboard or as soon as I pick up my guitar, it became very Pavlovian, just like we can program and create a response to doing something over and over again. It just became second nature for me to do that. And I'm not talking just about like artists, and this is not just for artists, it's not just for musicians or people who we think of as creative. For me, it's about bringing that divine in to create with you in every moment, your day. You know, you walk into the bank and the teller there is having a bad day. Your voice, for me, your words are part of sound healing, and each one of us is a sound healer that connects and brings the divine through. So we all have the ability to birth something from nothing, and that is what the energy of the creator is. That's what the energy of God is. I mean, who is more creative than God? Right? Take a walk in nature, look at a
Yeah.
flower, right?
Yeah.
Go to the ocean. You want to hear the technology of surround sound, right? Or ambient sound, or fifth dimensional sound. Go to the ocean. We're not creating anything new. We're replicating something that's been ancient. And I think that's where some of the confusion lies, that we think like the power of AI and all of these things are cutting edge, but we're really just replicating what's already there, right? We're already tapping into the field of all creation, what has existed previously, to create something new. That's really not different from any singular person's creative process. I mean, we're constantly tapping into the field of everything, past, present, and future.
Thank you for giving us that description about how to collaborate with the divine. And I want to talk about something special, and it is that the neurocardiologist Andrew Armour, a French doctor, in 1991, he found 40,000 sensory neurites in our heart. And His last name is Armor, what means love. And your last name means the stone made of gold. And I think that you are a stone on which people can build. The dentist can build an operation in a freedom, in a safe environment. How you said it, someone who has a child and this child cannot sleep can use your music as a stone made of gold in order to help this child to sleep. And what do you think? What is your purpose right now? What is the new big creation that you want for your life and for your career, Barry?
I mean, I think it's for me, it's just creating impact. It's not like I don't think that any creation for me starts off bigger than any other creation.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
it's all creation. We don't know which ones are going to resonate with people and which ones are not. And I learned early in my career, like I remember doing an album and having a listening group of people come into my studio, about 100 people, and just to see which songs they felt were the strongest songs on the album. And the ones that I thought were the strongest songs, the ones that I was attached to per se, wasn't the ones that people picked. So I think that I learned that at pretty early, that I might love my favorite song on an album might be the least favorite to someone else. And the same thing the other way around. My least favorites might be the ones that people connect to. So my biggest job in the creative process is just to be a pure vessel for the collaboration to come through. And I say collaboration, I don't think of it as channeling per se. You know, I think of it more as collaborating or divine collaborations, because I think we all come into our human bodies with our own signature, whether it's musically or based on things that we've learned in our lives, that we have our own style, but I think that when we collaborate and we bring that in, that's when something unique is created. And I think, music is so powerful because it's not just notes, it's not just frequencies. I think people are very caught up in this day and age of what frequency is going to cure this, or what frequency is going to be the panacea for this. And I think it's more important that people listen to music as individually, not prescriptively. So every composition by every composer is different for every person listening to it. And if we learn to listen to what makes us feel more expansive, and also what makes us feel more contracted from a listening perspective, we have the ability to pick up on the composer's process through listening to a piece of music. And that's what I was really getting at. So it's not just the frequencies or the notes you're hearing, but you're also, music's a carrier of information, period. Not just musical information, but it's also a carrier of my emotions in that moment. When you hear me playing a piece of music, or you're hearing my emotions, what I was going through in that music, but you're also hearing my intention behind that. So when I go into the studio, and you were asking about other artists and what I can recommend to them in order to stay right aligned and to tap into, into that energy, are there any things missing? So it's aligning the intention and the emotion when you're coming into this space. So I think of this as a sacred space. So if I come in with the intention, I want to create a piece of music today that's going to be loving and nurturing to people, it's going to be quite different than I want to create a piece of music today that is going to be motivating and, and inspiring, that might have more beats, more rhythm, more impact in it than a piece of music that might just be very calming and relaxing. So, what's my intention when I come into this room? And then what's the emotion that I need to align with that? So, if my intention is being in that soft and beautiful space of love and creating a beautiful heart opening piece, but I just had a challenging situation or an argument with a loved one. Right now, if I bring that into this space, the intention is not really going to have the vibrational upgrade that I want people to experience because it's not aligned with the emotion. So that would be my suggestion to anyone who is creating anything, whether it's your next book, or your a piece of music or a piece of art or your next workshop or your next talk to a large audience, is to think of the space you're walking into as a sacred space. And you want to be aligned with your intention, with your heart and your mind. That perfect balance of energy, of the wisdom of your heart and the knowledge of your mind. And that for me goes into the music. And that creates a field of energy that goes beyond me. And you talked about it rippling out and thousands of people listening. The field carries that information. Do you think it's going to carry it if there's dissonance in the field that I'm creating? Each song, each musical piece is a field of energy, right? You hear something, you're like, oh my God, to your friend, you have to hear this, right? They listen to it. It's a field. It has a life of its own and it does healing on its own. So it's creating it from that space of knowing, yes, the frequencies matter. Yes, the notes I play matter and the composition matters. That's where I bring in 30 years of composing music into this space. But ultimately, it's going to be magnified by intention and emotion. And it's all part of a recipe, I compare it. I'm sure that you have a loved one in your family who has a recipe that's been in your family for generations, right? They could write it down on a piece of paper, but it's never going to be the same way twice, because they're always putting something extra in. They're always putting their love in. They're seeing your whole family eating it, right? And that's part of it as well. When I'm setting the intention, I'm seeing it received already. I'm seeing, like when I do music for a walking meditation, with Dr. Joe Dispenza, I'm seeing the people walking to it on the beach and having a healing experience. And that's already happening as I'm composing the piece. So if I could make any suggestions or give people any advice, is never underestimate where you are, where you are energetically when you are creating something. It's always sacred. And if you were to invite the divine in to co-create with you, wouldn't you want that space to be ready for that collaboration? Wouldn't you want that place to be sacred and divine to invite the divine in to create with you? So
That was a very deep and beautiful answer. Thank you.
and I
Thank you.
realize I'm kind of going, I don't know if I'm answering your questions or not as we're going here,
And
but I'm just,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Right now, I'm imagine my mom just made for us a dish like 1 week ago, and the entire family was there, and we were eating, and all of us were surprised because mom normally says that she doesn't cook like really good, but she does, and it tasted very good. And when someone asked like, how did you do it, like three of us at once said with love, but just uh, we just said it. We didn't think about it. And now that you say, that's the power of intention while doing the things and while you're doing it. And it's very important to for all of us that are listening to this, to start asking ourselves, are we doing it for the fact of bringing joy or empowerment or love to to others' life? Um, Barry, your father planted a seed of trust and greatness in you when he bought um, one guitar. I have heard that story, and I would like you to elaborate how you would describe that we people can plant seeds, energetic seeds in our children, and especially for the parents who are listening to this. How can parents um, plant seeds like your father did with you? Can you elaborate, please?
Sure. So I think it comes back to that, back to a similar topic. I mean, I think of this as nourishment. So just like that recipe is providing nourishment, that we nourish ourselves with our giftedness as well, and we nourish ourselves with music or whatever gift that we have. So I think it's really the parents' awareness too. It's not necessarily the parents planting the seeds, but it's the parents being aware of what the seed is and not having their own perception of what that needs to look like in their child. So with me, my father saw this seed of music and that it was something that I loved. And it was very interesting because in my household, my sister was older than I was, and she got music lessons. She got piano lessons, and she, to a degree, resented the lessons per se. She didn't love having the lessons. And so when my parents saw that that I was interested in it, they were very sure of not to push it on me per se. And I think that was the biggest difference, was that they let it nurture naturally in me. When they saw me picking up a guitar and literally being in my room for hours at a time and just loving it, that's when they decided, to nurture it even more. And that's when I tell the story of how my dad bought me, that first electric guitar I have, which is it's the one behind me there. If you see that, the Gibson Les Paul there, it's the Cherry Sunburst guitar. So my dad bought that for me in 1976 when I was about 15 years old. And that was my dad's way of saying that he was willing to invest in my passion and my nurturing. And I don't think he grew up in the Depression, Don. So, they had their limited beliefs around music as well. But I think he put that aside, which was probably difficult for him, because I don't think they wanted me to become a professional musician, because I don't think they thought that it was going to be able to sustain me, based on their belief systems. Yet he purchased it for me anyway, and they couldn't afford it, which you heard that part of the story. When my dad bought me that guitar, he took me outside and he said, your mom's gonna kill me, which was very funny because my mom was only about 4'5". She's very small. He said, your mom's gonna kill me for buying you this guitar. So before I buy it, I want you to promise me that you're gonna stick with music. And of course, I was 15 or 14 years old at the time. And I promised him that. And I didn't realize at the time that this was more than a promise. It was a rite of passage between two men. This was a ritual that was happening, that was ancestral. His father did not have that same belief or confidence in him. So my dad was literally shifting an ancestral pattern by telling the universe he believed in me enough to put his, money that they didn't really have at the time behind me. And for years, I would look at that guitar and say, oh, I should sell this guitar because I was coming up as a producer, but never did, because I made that promise. And literally 30 years after my dad bought me that guitar, which was a Gibson Les Paul, the guy who invented the electric guitar, his name is on that. I worked with Les Paul himself and co-produced a Grammy award-winning track. So that belief rippled in such a powerful way, that ritual, that rite of passage. And I think, in going to your question, what's my suggestion for parents? So it's not for them to tell their children what the seed is or to plant the seed. It's to see what their children are resonating with. What brings a smile to their children's face when they're doing it? Maybe it's drawing, maybe it's playing an instrument, maybe it's acting, maybe it's writing, who knows? We don't always know what it is, but whatever it is, nurture it. And just like your mother puts that loving energy into the recipe, we create the nourishment and the nurturing of our children or our loved ones. Maybe it's not just for parents, but for people who don't have kids. Maybe it's their mate or the person they're married to. Same thing. What makes their heart sing? And then fan the flames of their heart. And that is, what I think our job is in terms of passing this down generationally is there's flames in our heart, right, that are constantly being seeded. We're constantly lighting this creative energy in our hearts. So I think it's the parents' job, the loved one's job, to fan the flames and let them know. My dad fanned the flame of my heart when he bought me that guitar, and that rippled out for me in this interview, right? If my dad had never done that, we wouldn't be here talking.
Definitely. Thank you. You have played with Les Paul and you have co-produced something that won a Grammy Award. Those two things are big dreams and things that tons of artists would like to have the opportunity to experience. You have shared stage with big names in the music industry. You collaborate with Dr. Joe Dispenza, with Daniel Amen. I just want to say something. After that, I'm going to say that. And I would like to ask you, what did you manifest in your life that changed forever your paradigm about what you are capable of, Barry? And if you would like to tell us, like the moment before you or while you started like having that in mind, while you were experiencing it, and after you have created it, what was something that created a new level of consciousness?
For me, it came from a, a moment of uncertainty, a moment of angst. And, I was at a point in my career where I wasn't sure about which way to go, and this was probably, I would say like 2003 or 4. And I had been a successful music producer, but experimenting with this part of music that I was doing was a new path that opened up for me. And I remember having this conversation with God or the divine, whatever you choose to call it. And I'm sure some of you have probably had a similar conversation where I wasn't very happy with God. So I was like, hey, I don't care whatever it is that you want me to do. I will do. I don't care if it's waiting tables, or if it's, if it's doing music, whatever it is, I'm open to it. But I don't, I don't want to second guess. I don't want to be in a place of fear. I want, similar to if you've heard what Dr. Joe talks about and what the bleep do we know, give me a sign of some kind where I know that without a shadow of a doubt that I've received a communication from the divine. And so within that same year, um, I went to see Wayne Dyer, and who was very inspirational for me. And I remember sitting in the audience, and Wayne Dyer had this unbelievable quote where he said, "Don't die with your music still in you." And it felt like he was talking to me in that moment. And it started that those signs that I kind of asked for started manifesting. And in that moment where Wayne said that, I knew that I hadn't been fully sharing a part of my music. So originally I was a singer-songwriter, but I was producing a lot of the other people. And there were still songs in me that I wanted to sing. And so I made a commitment in that talk that Wayne had, that I was going to create an album of my own songs. And I named the album The Moment because in that moment was when I created that promise. And I said, I don't care if one person hears it or a million people hear it. I'm going to create this album. Within a year, I had created the album, and 6 months after that, um, I was invited to open up for Wayne Dyer in the Denver Budweiser Center. That same year, again, this is not long after I had this conversation with God, is when I received the call, would you like to be part of this album with Les Paul? And I had been going to see Les Paul for many years, backstage begging him to do an album. And my partner in production had continued to be persistent with Les. And the album got a go ahead after many years of being persistent, all within that same time period. So that was what shifted for me. Was I wanted a sign, and those signs came through, like not in small ways, in big ways. All of a sudden I'm in front of 5,000 people, opening up for someone who inspired me and getting to tell them how their talk inspired this whole album. And after the album was created with Les Paul, and we won a Grammy for that song, I was invited to play with Les Paul live. I was able to tell Les Paul how how my father bought me a Les Paul when I was 14. So these signs came forward in a very big way. And I knew that there was a resonance, there was an energy working with me that wanted me to do something more, that wanted me to stop playing small and to start start really bringing that intention into impacting people globally. And when I stepped into that, and in a different way, and I look at that in a different way now, after redefining what ego is, because I think that a lot of us play small because we define ego as being too vocal in what we're doing, or or not bragging about who we're working with, or whatever that is. So we hold ourselves back, from sharing our gift fully. And I remember reading a quote by an author named Michael Berg, from a book called Becoming Like God, is about the Kabbalah. And the quote was that ego is receiving for the self alone. So that when we have a gift and we're not sharing it fully, that's when we're in ego, not the other way around, when we're overly sharing it. But if we're holding back, so I invite people who are listening, to ask themselves, am I holding back my gift in any way that God has given me? Because if you are, that's when we're in ego. You're not an ego by playing big and wanting to impact a lot of people, or help a lot of people. And again, there's no difference between, for me, wanting to help one person or wanting to help 5 million people. And that's something that, Neil Donald Walsh taught me as well. And he said, when we walk into a room, it doesn't matter how many people there are in a room. Our job is to heal the room and to bring that healing energy in. And that's really it. I mean, it's all about just doing something you love, sharing it in a pure way for yourself first. I mean, and that's really the key, is even that whole definition of ego is we have to love what we do first. We have to be receiving the energy of it first. And we have to be a vibrational match for whatever it is that our intention is. And when that occurs, then it's going to find the audience. It's going to find the people who need it. And I hate to oversimplify it, but it doesn't start from wanting to be a superstar. It doesn't start from wanting to work with a specific person. It starts from a pure intention and an emotion to match that, and creating the sacred space to bring the divine into.
I think all of us are learning and nurturing ourselves with this sacred conversation. Thank you, Barry. Barry, and in order to think big, you have to hold yourself at a very high vibrational state. After all you have achieved, what golden nuggets would you like to share with us about manifestation and manifestation in a big way?
Yeah, so I would say for me, one of the most important things is developing a relationship with your heart. So, and I wrote a book called The Secret Language of the Heart,
Yes.
right? And it's about, it's not a secret per se, but it's the secret of it really is are we doing it, right? And are we having a two-way conversation? That's really the secret, because I'm sure many of us have had conversations with our heart, but it's also about listening to it. And this is a two-way conversation that occurs. And this is not something that we are taught in school. We're not taught how to converse with our heart. We're not taught the difference between the heart's intelligence and the mind's intelligence, and the power of combining those two. So for me, music starts within you. It's not something that happens to you. It's something that it happens in you. And that conversation that I'm talking about, and we can even do this together, we're at the 44 minutes mark here. So I'm sure we'll be doing it at 44:44. We can be doing this process together, but the
Yes.
process really is about bringing in a knowing that you have your own unique vibration in your heart. I call this your heart code. So regardless of, we all have a heartbeat, we all have a breath, but yours is unique to you. So I'm going to ask you
Mhm.
now at 44:44 to place your hands on your heart and to just go inward, to close your eyes, place your hands on your heart, and we talked about creating a sacred space. So when you place your hands on your heart, you are touching something very sacred. So if you think of how sacred it would be to allow someone who loves you to actually touch your physical heart, how vulnerable and beautiful and sacred that would be. That's really how you're touching your own heart, giving yourself that permission to bring a loving touch to your heart. And just slow your breathing down. Bring a big breath in through your heart and release a big breath out. And for a moment, just allow yourself to feel your own heartbeat. Just connect to your own vibration. Bring a breath in through your heart. And again, a big sigh out. So that sigh out is what I call a soul sound. It's your soul telling you everything's going to be okay, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what challenge you might be experiencing today, that in this moment, you have your heartbeat, you have your breath. That is a sign from the universe that you are okay, that you still have a vital life force coming through you. So, is it possible in this moment to bring in gratitude for your own unique rhythm of your heart, your own breath of this inner symphony? So, bring a big breath in through your heart, bring a big breath out, and bring in a vision of something that you love in your life. It could be a place in nature, it could be someone you love, it could be a pet, anything that brings you to a place of love. What would that be for you? And if it's just your heartbeat or if it's your breath, just bring that in. Bring a big breath in and send that love to every cell in your physical body. Seeing your cells receiving that, seeing them move to a place of restoration and rejuvenation. Again, a big breath in, send that into every cell in your physical body. And you might be feeling your heart's energy expanding. You might be feeling warmth in that area. And this is a sign that your heart is communicating with you, that this divine conversation isn't just something that's happening in your physical body, but it's something that is being received and communicated back and forth between something beyond your physical body, that it is connecting to an unlimited field and connecting to the divine as you move into expanding your heart's energy. And just receive that in your heart. Bring that breath into the heart and now send that out beyond your physical body into the field, that vibration of love that you received. Now you're sending out. And then ask your heart a question. Maybe it's something that you've been wondering about, or something that just comes in this moment that you would like an answer to. Ask your heart a question. Ask the divine a question. And then for the next few moments, I want you to just allow yourself to receive any guidance that you would like to bring in through the divine. And if you feel like you want to write it down, you can, or you can just receive it in your heart space as well, whatever feel good to you. And just continue to breathe in and out through your heart space as you're doing this. Keep your awareness so that it is still in this beautiful, relaxed energy for the next few moments. Just breathing in through the heart and breathing out through the heart. And as you continue to do this, I'm just going to play some gentle music to allow the energy to continue to come through based on the group energy. And just allow yourself to continue to receive as you hear it. And then just bringing our hands to our heart if they're not still there. Big breath in. Big breath out. And just taking a moment to really bring in that gratitude and this beautiful conversation, moving into that beautiful coherent state to receive and just allow yourself to stay in that energy for a moment. And as we have this beautiful heart space that we've created together, let's take a moment to send it out to someone in your life or send it out to someplace in the world beyond ourselves here. So we've created this beautiful circle of energy with people tuning in from all over the world. And people will be watching this on replay as well. What would it feel like to be joining our hands around the world and to be sending our beautiful heart energy into the heart of the planet? So let's do that together, placing our hands on our heart and just see how all of our energy is connected in this beautiful space of divine energy. And we'll bring a breath in, and on our out breath, we'll visualize this beautiful breath of love going into the heart of the planet and rippling out. So bring that big breath in and let's send it out. Beautiful. And then let's just take a big breath in, and now let's bring it in through the bottom of our feet. So we're going to bring this energy of the earth into our physical body to ground us in a little bit more so that we feel more present in the physical body. So visualize your feet on the earth, plant them on the floor where you are, and see yourself connected to the divine energy of Mother Earth. This is the energy that nurtures and supports you and grounds you on the next steps on your path. So bring a big breath in, bringing it in through the bottom of your feet, all the way up to your heart, and releasing it. Then bring a big breath in, bringing this breath in through the heavens or the unlimited field that we are connected to. Bring that in through the top of your head, all the way to your heart, and releasing it. And now feeling that beautiful balanced energy of above and below, integrating in our heart with a big breath in through the heart and a big breath out to the heart. And just, if you want to move your hands, fingers around a little bit, your feet and toes a little bit, and just feeling yourself more in the room.
Thank you for being a blessing in this world, dear Barry.
Well, thank you for having me, and your beautiful presence that I've experienced. This is the first time meeting you and experiencing you, and loved the depth of who you are and your questions that created this beautiful conversation together. And yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Definitely, definitely, Barry. Thank you for sharing with us your wisdom. Thank you for channeling for us messages that I'm that I'm sure everyone who is listening to this got answers to their own questions. And welcome to Latin America. Welcome to Colombia. Welcome to this home that is also your home, my dear
Thank you.
Barry. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of the people who have attended to this space. And we wish you a wonderful journey creating out of nothing music that can help us to shift and to create change in our lives.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, one thing I do want to share with people as
Yeah,
well
yeah,
is for those of you who are new to working with music and sound as well, that if you felt energy moving as we were doing the process, that there's nothing to fear within that. It's always good when energy is moving and we're able to shift energy, and music is just a very gentle way to do that. But that doesn't mean that it's not powerful just because it's gentle. So sometimes that this energy of music and working with sound in the way that we did and connecting with our hearts and just tapping into the music that I brought through was for the energy of the group, not just in the moment, but for many times in my experience, this will ripple out, and the healing can ripple out for days, sometimes weeks, for you to experience it fully. So give yourself time. If you want to come back to the recording of this and do the process that we shared again, and also to really to live with your answers that you received, and accept them fully. Sometimes we second guess, is this coming from spirit? But allow them to ripple out and to see how they show up in your life as well. So the big message is really give yourself some time to integrate. And if you have the ability to give yourself some time directly after this and to continue to work with the energy, either by listening to music or continuing to journal, and the conversation with your heart doesn't have to stop from this interview. It can continue in your day, and a practice of doing this on a daily basis where you're connecting with your heart, um, you're going to find that transformation is going to happen. Like, this is a habit that is nourishing to for the soul, that everything starts in the heart and ripples out from there. So this is a powerful practice to incorporate into your life, and continue to keep in touch with both me and Don. And I'm thankful as well to introduce you to my audience, and this is going to my platform as well. So please continue to follow Don and his work, and I'm sure that a lot of you really loved, his awareness and beautiful energy. So
Barry, before we finish, I would like to explain um, to which kind of situations can we find music on your platform. Um, I know that we can find you on Spotify, but on your website, on Barry Goldstein music.com, what kind of offers of your music do we find? Like, for example, when we are stressed, when we want to lift up the energy to start the day. Can you elaborate there, please?
sure, sure. So yeah, my website connects you with another platform. When you go to barrygoldsteinmusic.com, you'll see also the Sound of Transformation. And the soundofttransformation.com is where I house some of my courses as well. So if you're interested in continuing some of this work, if you're interested more in sound and as it relates to the energy centers or chakras, and the creative process, there are courses there, as well as there's a digital collections that um, are based on my work as well, that you can experience there. And there's also a really great package called the Heart of Well-Being, which actually has processes similar to the one we did, called the heart song breathing process, as well as gratitude processes, breathing processes. And that is also like a wonderful program if you're looking to take the next steps in a more experiential way. It's over 8 hours of content with music that's for heart brain coherence and processes everything, from winding down at night, to also igniting energy, as well. So yeah, and it's fully explained there. I also have a YouTube channel where I offer a lot of free teachings and processes, as well as Spotify and iTunes and Amazon.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You have said once that our heart works as a metronome. What happened to us when we listen to music?
Yeah. So with my music, a lot of my meditation music and a lot of my initial experiment, where I started doing this type of music, starts from actually targeting the heart at a relaxed state. So you probably know this as well, Don, from your work, is that our heart, most of us at a relaxed state, are between 60 to 70 beats per minute. And so music, it has the ability to synchronize with our heart. And when something is at a certain tempo, our hearts have the ability, as you said, is the metronome in our body that sets the time that is being dictated to the rest of our systems in our body. So the best way for me to explain that is if you think of our bodies as an orchestra, and all the different systems of your body are parts of that orchestra, like your lymphatic system, your digestive system, your endocrine system. They are all parts of this inner orchestra that's going on. Imagine what it would sound like if all of those individual sections decided to play at different tempos or whatever they wanted to play. What you would hear would be very discordant or dissonant or incoherent. So, but if our heart can adapt or synchronize to a tempo and then basically set that tempo for the rest of these systems, so 60 to 70 beats per minute, our heart starts creating smooth and orderly rhythms. Now, this is what we call heart coherence. So most of my music that is for meditation is at 60 beats per minute. And that inner metronome has the ability to adapt to the external metronome in the music. We call this entrainment, when an internal rhythm adapts to an external stimuli. And so that is how our inner metronome connects with the external one. And it's not only emotional and spiritual and mental benefits, but when our physical body moves into this state of coherence, we're moving into what's called a parasympathetic state. So this is when we stop running from the bear, our stresses and our anxiety in our life, which is called the sympathetic system. And the parasympathetic is when we rest and digest. So, and we restore our energy, right? We rejuvenate our energy. So targeting that state within music is very important because that's how our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body can move to a more healing state when we're in that parasympathetic state. And a host of benefits occur just by moving into that state. Everything from better digestion, strengthening our immune system, better sleep at night, less anxiety. And this is what I call acoustaceuticals. So we have pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, but what I'm doing acoustaceuticals, because low cost, non-invasive, and very little side effects, to most people, except a feeling of moving to that beautiful state. So, and all of these things are part of, creating a deeper music program for yourself, which is a lot of what my teaching is about, what my book is about, as well, is how can we deepen this process, this musical nourishment for, so it moves beyond art and entertainment, and it moves into healing and transformation in our life. So
You said that everything is sacred, everything is spiritual in its own way. And if our heart is a metronome that adapts its own rhythm with the rhythm of music, what happens with nowadays mainstream music? What are your thoughts about it, Barry?
yeah, I think music and different genres can have healing in them and can be beneficial for people, and it's based on how it makes you feel. Again, it's not just listening to what other people says that this frequency is going to be good for you, or this rap song is bad for you.
Mhm.
um you know if you listen to a song and it helps you move energy, and you know it helps you move through anger, that's great. The thing is, you don't want to stay in that lower vibrational energy too long, right? You don't want to stay in the space of you know anger for an extended period of time, because that's when it begins to move into other things like depression, or it can move into other you know other aspects of mental challenges that we just necessarily don't want to bring in. But I think that dissonance can have a place in the healing process as well. We don't want to bury energy and just push it down. We want to move the energy and then upgrade our energy as well. So they're finding more and more research that people's preferred music, the music that you love, is going to be music that is going to resonate with you and that can be beneficial for you. And again, it's not a matter of listening to it for 10 hours,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
I tell people who are new to this, find one song. This is the start of a music program. So for people who want to incorporate this in a practical way in their life, I say you start with one song that makes you happy, that makes you feel happy. So for me, it could be like the Jackson 5, The Love You Save, or Earth, Wind and Fire. These are songs, it's hard for me to be in a bad mood when I listen to them. And for example, if I ask people to start posting this in the chat now, what their happy song is, you're going to feel the energy of the chat raise up because their joy is connected to that music. And it will continue as people are watching this and rewatching this. If you monitor the thread, now you don't have one happy song. You can say, "Oh wow, Don's happy song was this." Like, what's your happy song, Don? Do you have a song that you love?
Right now, there is a song that is called, it's for Paulo Londra. It's a rap song. Um, right now, I don't remember the name of it. But yeah, it's a rap song. How is it called? Now I know why it doesn't have a name. It is a session between Visa Rap and Paulo Londra. The session 52. It's like the name of the song. It's
Okay.
all of them have one number as a session. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so that I want to hear that just based on your energy. Like I can see you already moving to that space. And again, the research shows that music creates autobiographical memories. So when you have a piece of music that makes you feel happy, like mine are from my childhood, right? So when I hear that song, I'm literally with my childhood friends. I'm in a bowling alley. I'm having a great time, and I can feel the energy of that in that experience. And
Wow.
even thinking of that song, again, they're showing this in fMRI studies as well, that thinking of this can bring up almost as powerful of a reaction in the brain by just thinking of it, not even hearing it, thinking of it can start to create these beneficial neurotransmitters like dopamine and other beneficial neurotransmitters, and also begin to curtail things like cortisol, our stress hormones. So that's a great starting point. If you have this, like, you want to create a program for yourself, start with one happy song. Start your day listening to a happy song. And then I think of music just like nourishment for ourselves. So if you think of creating your own musical program, think of the 3 times of day that you normally nourish yourself with. Start your day like breakfast, right? You're breaking the fast. So for 8 hours, you haven't heard any music unless
Yeah.
you hear it in a dream. Like I heard it in a dream, but unless you have heard it in a dream, you're breaking the fast of listening to something. What's one song or one piece of music that you want to start your day with? So you might want to look at your schedule and say, wow, I have this going on this morning. I think I want to listen to this piece of music. That's going to help me in my day. Then at lunch, just like lunch, by lunchtime, most people have depleted their energy in some way, whether it's through working or through a situation or a challenge, or you just want to bring in more vibrant energy. What is the one song that you want to listen to during lunch that's going to help you? Take 5 minutes, take a 5-minute musical vacation, right? And I love listening to a piece of music from another part of the world. So I would love to listen to your rap song at
Okay.
lunchtime, right? Because when I listen to something in another language, it takes me out of my environment, right? I'm not in this room. I'm in Colombia, or I'm in another part of the world where you're listening to this. So I love to listen to a piece of music from another part of the world, or music that's going to get me up and move out of this chair because I'm sitting down a lot. Or do you want to, if you were stressed out, listen to a more calming piece of music? So that's lunch, right? And after dinner, I think of the evening as winding down. So what do you want to listen to? I think of it kind of like dessert. As you're winding down your day, what's going to bridge your busy mindset, right? So you're in beta brainwaves, which are your more busy firing and wiring, your busy mind, and you need that, right? You need that to concentrate and to focus. But how are you going to bridge those busy brainwaves into a calmer state? Because we want to move into our delta brainwave state, is where we're going to be during sleep. So you don't want to just go from high beta brainwaves to, delta brainwaves. You want to bridge into alpha and theta brainwave states. So listening to a calming piece of music where you can begin to, kind of work through your day a little bit. Listen to a beautiful piece of music. And what do you have to be grateful for in your day? Start to process your day so that you're going through your day. You don't have to have these conversations in your sleep because you didn't work on processing your day, right? What were the challenges of your day that you need to still process? What was the blessing that you learned from those challenges? Because if you could process that before you go to sleep, the mind doesn't have to come back to it. And so again, I think of sleep as a sacred state, right? Do you want to bring the lower vibrational energy of your day that hasn't been processed into dream state? And, in ancient times, people knew that sleep is where we receive messages, where we restore our energy. So not just going from your busy day into sleep, utilize music to bridge that in a beautiful way and see what happens. See how you start to receive messages in your day. You wake up more revitalized because you're cleansing the day. So if you look at your day like a blackboard, right? And everything that happens in your day, you're filling up a piece of your blackboard, right? Do you want to go to bed with that busy blackboard, or do you want to erase it so that you wake up at the beginning of your day with a clear blackboard to create on, right? You want a new palette to be drawing on and creating on. So that would be the practical message I have for people listening, right? Start with your happy song. If this is all too much for you, just one song. It's hard to deny that one song. And then from there, expand it into 3 times of the day that you're going to utilize music. And then for those of you who want to get even more advanced, you begin to create playlists for specific emotions based on the schedule of your day, right? If you think that you have a tough situation, you have a family member going through something and you want to be there present for them, what playlist do you need to listen to for maybe a half an hour to get yourself in the space of showing up for them in a sacred way? Or if you have a big, business meeting and you got to be on, you have investors coming in, right? And you want them to get excited about your mission and you want them to become part of your mission. You don't want to listen to relaxing music, right? What are the tracks that get you into rhythm and sync, right? You want to feel that in your body. You want an active playlist of your jams, right? Of songs that get you going. So again, it's not just prescriptive, it's individualized music as medicine.
I I had those 3 questions, and I didn't have to ask you that. And thank you for saying that. So, if I want to sit down with an investor and I want to bring this person to see the vision that I'm seeing, in that case, I have to listen to something that amazes me, that gives me that gives me empowerment, and I'm going to transmit that to the other person, isn't it? Did
Yeah,
I
and this is
understand?
where we started
Okay.
off. This is
Wow.
where we started off in our interview. It's come full circle because when you asked me what really my purpose was, I said it's basically something that weaves through everything, right? Music to
Yeah.
magnify mission, right? So if you're trying to get your investors excited, about something, or let's not even think of it as like money investors, right? But
Yeah.
really, when you're asking someone to come in to collaborate with you, what's happening is you're inviting them into your energy field of the passion of whatever the project is, and you're asking them to share their energy. So that would even be a great process for you to do is, wow, what would be one song or a group of songs that really symbolize the mission of my project? So again, and so now you have a playlist that anytime you feel disconnected from that mission, like maybe you have a bad day, or maybe you brought in these people for the meeting and it wasn't a match, right? They're not the right, they weren't the right people to bring in for it. But
Yeah.
maybe that you feel a little depleted, or maybe you feel like energetic holes were poked in the mission. Well, now you have a playlist to reconnect you, right? So it's not just a playlist, right? This isn't music to magnify your mission. You could come back to that playlist, reconnect with the power of your own vision and say, you know what? They Wow, this is a blessing. This is a blessing because they weren't resonating with my energy or my mission. And if you were connected to that and you were in your heart space and you feel that your intention and your emotion were in alignment during that meeting, then they just weren't it wasn't the right match. And it
Wow.
happens, right? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Your mission is going to be subjective. Not everyone is going to resonate with your mission. It's the same with music.
Hmm.
You know, Music's subjective. They could listen to my music and some people might say, wow, I don't know. I don't like that piece of music. I don't see what you hear in it. While others might love it and want to share it with everyone else. So I never think of it as bad or good. The people who are want to be connected with your song, right? This is your song. Your vision is your heart song, right? That's rippling out to be shared with someone. If they don't get it, then next, right? You'll find the match, and you'll be like, wow, I felt my heart's energy expanding with these people. I didn't feel like there was energy being depleted. And they'll either get it or they'll share it with someone else. It's always going to find its right home, and we don't know when. Like my dad buying me that guitar. I
Mm.
worked with Les Paul 30 years after he bought me that guitar,
Amazing.
right? 30 years. Now, I'm not saying that we all want to wait for 30 years, but
Yeah.
you know, there, there's that's the big message is miracles can happen in a moment, and it could take longer for them to happen. Just keep nurturing the seeds, keep creating, keep nourishing your dreams. And sometimes that's not the dream that you thought. It's something else, completely different that happens, and you end up moving in another path of what your dreams look like. You come back to that one in 30 years, or revisit it. Like I'm coming back to where I started 30 years ago. I'm producing more pop music. I'm moving into doing more film and media things. So I'm taking the experience that I got 30 years ago and combining it with everything else that I've learned spiritually and all the lessons now to create something that's even more powerful than I could have 30 years ago.
Wow.
And so, you know, we're like fine wines, we can age and continue to contribute, while a lot of my friends are discussing exit strategies. I'm still in my entering strategy. I don't think of it as retirement. I don't think that's a word that's going to exist. It's more like, reinventing, not retirement. I'm just going to keep reinventing. So
I have heard you saying that drums help people who have Parkinson to walk. Any other tip for special cases like that?
yeah, well, it's not necessarily like walk, but it's their gait.
The gait.
So
Yeah, that's the
it's their
word.
gait.
English.
So
Gait.
So in Parkinson's patients, their gait can be out of rhythm in terms of them finding a rhythm with walking, and their feet drag, and that's called the gait. So with music, and if they can synchronize with that rhythm of the drums, they found that to be beneficial in Parkinson's patients. And that's because a part of their brain, the basal ganglia, which is really our rhythm centers where motor control is affected with Parkinson's. So when we can re-engage that in some way, that helps with the gait. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways now that that drumming is also being used as well with vets who have PTSD. It's being used for people who have a lot of anxiety as well. They're finding that just by drumming. So when we're drumming, our heart's in training, but also our brain's in training. So this is a great example of heart and brain entrainment together, and how the heart and brain can synchronize to become more powerful. That when the heart moves into those coherent states with drumming, that our brain starts to produce more alpha brain waves as well. And they showed this to be effective in PTSD vets, literally experiencing 40 times the amount of alpha brain waves that they were experiencing before a drumming circle. Alzheimer's patients using what we're talking about, playlists and preferred music. They're literally showing that it can create new neural pathways and neuroplasticity. So when our spoken word language doesn't work, the language of music can actually work with reconnecting Alzheimer's patients to memories, and literally create a lifeline to bringing them back into awakening their mind. And if you look up beautiful interview, not interview, but a beautiful video, uh, type in Alzheimer's and Henry, and it
Okay.
shows a beautiful awakening of how his family utilize playlists to bring him back into a state where they could communicate with him. Another great example of that is Tony Bennett, who just recently who recently passed. While he had Alzheimer's, not only was he still performing with Lady Gaga, right, in Carnegie Hall, but his piano player who played with him for over 30 years said that Tony Bennett was not only remembering music, but he was coming up with new renditions of how he was phrasing musical phrases. So he was still able to improvise, which I find fascinating, in Alzheimer's. So it's not just memorizing, which is that part of our brain, that analytical part of our brain, but we are shown to have improvising is what really, with music, is what really can improve cognition. So even with rappers, when they are improvising and doing freestyle, that's when fMRI studies showed that cognition was basically improving. And the same thing with jazz musicians, that the improvisational part is what improved the cognitive part of the brains. So that can even happen in Alzheimer's. So,
Wow.
music, we're constantly, Don, we're learning more and more. When I wrote my book, I quoted a study on Om that showed that a study that where people who were chanting Om
Yeah.
lit up areas of their brain that were associated with inner peace. So it created what's called limbic deactivation. So when we're deactivating our limbic systems, we're in a more peaceful state. When the control group chanted S, nothing happened in the brain, but Om was shown to have created the benefit in our brain. So it really showed of that science is catching up to spirituality. Like, we've known this for 2000s of years, right? In spiritual communities, we've known the power of Om, but it was thought of in the scientific community as being woo, right? So to speak. And so when I wrote my book, I started talking to doctors and audiences about this and inviting them to chant with me a chant I created called Om Shalom Home.
Shalom
And
hum.
yeah, so Om connects us to the earth, Shalom connects us to the heavens, and home is in our heart, right? So I invited them after presenting the study, would you like to join me in this chant? And seeing, 200 or 300 doctors standing up and chanting, so this is where we're going now. We're at like a tipping point where we're discovering that sound isn't just for those audiences, that this is time to bring this mainstream into popular music, into film. How do we get this out to younger audiences? And
Definitely.
there are some people doing great work, with that. There's a guy named Major. I don't know if you're familiar with Major. He's doing some great work with younger audiences. Janae Aiko in the R&B world is starting to, she won Grammys for R&B. She's starting to create sound healing albums. So again, this is circling back, for me, and it's going to be moving into pop. It's going to be moving into other things. And it's going to be moving into corporate environments. It already is, becoming more appropriate to talk about these things in mainstream, where people 10 years ago, when I wrote my book, or started writing it, it still was not mainstream. And now it's really hitting a tipping point. So, and it's people like you who, you're studying ways to bring in longevity and health, right?
Mhm.
And this is probably why, music is so exciting to you, is because it gives your audience something to tap into that is being studied, that can, there's studies now, you'd find this fascinating, that the Kirtan Kriya, which is called the Satanama, is actually lengthening telomeres by doing this for 12 minutes a day. So, and this is a
Wow.
study that was done by the Alzheimer's organization. This is a big study. So again, these are things that we know. Longevity, music and longevity are going hand in hand, because what's stopping us from longevity, and a lot of the precursors that are involved in chronic illness, are stress, anxiety, and sleep. They're all precursors to chronic illness. And a lot of the the illnesses that are affecting the major parts of our population, cancer, heart disease, the big ones, precursors to those are stress, and those are things that we can help beforehand, and these are things that we can help during the process as well, that put our bodies in a more conducive state to receive healing. And a lot of the pathways to stress can be alleviated through utilizing music. And the precursors to these illnesses are preventative. When we start working with our parents and our loved ones before dementia, and start working with our kids to give them tools to coping strategies, for stress, and turning off, our technology, and reconnecting with this is the most ancient technology, still the most powerful, cutting edge, right? Music, our heart, these are ways we can shut off technology and still tap in to the most powerful technologies that have been with us for thousands of years, which all the new technologies are being built upon something ancient,
Mhm.
all of
Wow. It's amazing that we can live longer just by chanting. And that is something that lots of us would like to incorporate in our lives. How can we do it, Barry?
Yeah, I mean, these are things that are so readily available now. You
Mhm.
know, you can go into YouTube, even if you don't have, any money, and you could
Mhm.
type in Kirtan Kriya, Kirtan, Kriya, and you
Mhm.
will find a lot of different artists performing it. You can go to my channel and you'll see a video there on the Om Shalom Home. That is like a 6-minute video with beautiful visuals. So there's really, I mean, the only thing stopping us is us, right? I
Is
mean,
ourselves.
right.
That
I
can
mean,
be our 5 minutes musical vacation per day.
that's it. I mean, you'd be amazed on like what can happen in giving yourself 5 minutes, like really focused 5 minutes of time with music to be fully present. And that's the key, is being there fully present. If you're going to be half in and like thinking about your email list or your Instagram during that process, then it's not going to really be helpful. But can you commit 5 minutes, every day to expanding your energy? And then, before you do it, you don't see it as a sacrifice. You see it as something sacred that is, wow, I want more than 5 minutes a day. You know, I want like, I'm going to do 20 minutes a day, or I'm going to just do it when I need it, when I feel like I need it, and that's the great thing. What's the dosage that you need? Right. So the same thing as prescriptions, is when we're prescribing medicine, what's the dosage that you need to be effective? And it's the same thing with music. What's the dosage that you need to move through whatever energy you're in?
Wow.
It might work in 5 minutes, but you might say, wow, I think I need more than this. I need to increase my dosage of this today, because I don't feel that expansion yet. So listen to your body and what's going on. And I say the great criteria. And I know we're going like we were saying goodbye 40 minutes ago. This is awesome though, right?
Yeah,
But this
definitely.
is great stuff because this is really important because the criteria really is, so what is expansive and contracted? Like we talk about that a lot.
Yeah,
And that's a question I ask myself all day in different parts of my day. Is this making me feel expansive or does this make me feel contracted? And expansive for me is if you know, I can feel that energy. I can feel a warmth in my heart. I can feel the energy opening up. But it's similar to me, and this is just me. I'm visual and I'm also multi-sensory, of being on top of a mountain, right, with my arms spread wide open, right? That's expansive. And even as I do that, I can feel energy come in. When something's contracted, I feel like when you're cold on a cold winter's day and you feel like you need to protect yourself, right? You need like you to feel like you have to put an armor around yourself because the energy feels like, it's invasive to your heart. And so you can ask yourself that when you're listening to a piece of music. Does this make me feel more expansive or contracted? Or, when you're having that meeting, that same meeting, and you're bringing in those investors, and you're talking about your mission and expanding the energy. When you got off that call, how are you feeling? Like, has that ever happened to you? Like you're on a phone call and for some reason you're like, I don't, I feel like that energy was sucked out of, during that meeting, or the other way around. Wow. I was like tired going into that meeting and I feel like uplifted. Right. So I ask myself that with people all day. Like, did they expand my energy or did they punch holes in my energy? And you know what? I mean, that's part of expanding our vision and our mission. Who are the hole punchers in your life,
yeah,
right? Who are the people who are punching holes in your energy? Maybe it's time to, you gotta like weed out your garden. Who are the weeds in your garden, and who are the flowers? And you want to have fertile soil in the garden of your mission. So those people who are punching holes in, and sometimes we have to, people in our lives, we have relatives in our lives or family members, and we can't just like cut them off, but we can sometimes limit the amount of time or create boundaries of how we allow that energy to come in our lives as well. So I think that it's constantly looking at the energy of our lives, and that's how you magnify your mission. Is who is my spiritual team? Who are the core people in my life who are nourishing and constantly being there for support for me? And even if they have critique, they're giving you constructive critique that's
yeah,
helping you, broaden your vision and fine tune your vision, as opposed to hole punchers who are giving you critique that is not geared towards your best interest. And it's learning to discern the difference. And that is just keep asking yourself, is that expansive for me? Is it contracted to me
contract.
in everything that you do?
I would like to the people who are listening to us right now to write on the comments, what do you learn from this conversation? What did you learn from this podcast? What was something that resonated a lot with you? What do you receive as an answer and as a message that you would say, oh, thank you, Barry, for saying that because that was especially for me? And as I told you before we start this conversation, Barry, I would like to say thank you in name of all the people who have healed health issues, all of the people who have created financial abundance, all of the people who have changed their life using your music, using your creations, and you must be proud of your work and you must be proud of yourself, because right now we are having a conversation like thousands miles away from each other. I am in Colombia, you are in the United States. And before we met today, I was listening to the song To Reduce Anxiety that you created with Daniel Amen, and I felt hold
Mm.
like you were holding me.
Ah,
And man, thank you for creating that. Thank you for letting the divine using you, and thank you for being brave enough to create your own rhythm and to create your own voice and to create and to let yourself create things in this world that informs us, um, in a way that gives us hope and empowers us. Thank you very much, dear Barry.
well, thank you, Don, and I'm receiving that, and um, I feel seen, and I hope as well that you know that I'm sending that energy back to you, even though it's the first time that we met, and we met just through Instagram, um,
Mhm.
and just by reaching out to each other. That any way that I can help you, or people in your audience as well, um, to let me know, and let's just set an intention of doing more things.
Yes, that's it. I would like to read Barry this message. CD says, just tuning in. Barry's music is helping me to heal chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. It makes me cry and clean so much. One day I will interview you, Barry. Linda said, instead of retirement, reinvent yourself. Thank you for being you and for sharing your music. Much love. Linda Phillips says that. Beverly Pope says, thank you, Barry. Awesome interview. Still rocking my world 25 years and counting.
Hey, Beverly. Awesome.
um, my dear, thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. Let's keep in touch, and sending you love, and everyone who joined in and is watching as well, sending you love outward, and look forward to seeing and meeting more of you.
Please follow Barry Goldstein on all the platforms. Barry Goldstein Music, barrygoldsteinmusic.com. Listen to his music and let yourself get help from the divine and from him to achieve your goals. Thank you very much, Barry.
Thank you.